Hi, my name is Josh Renard. I'm a solution engineer here at RapDev. The concept of modern ServiceOps is really aimed at allowing organizations to improve and grow with the capabilities that ServiceNow offers on the platform and the technologies that they choose to use to mature or modernize what they're doing. So the modern ServiceOps ties that together. So as new features arise on the platform, as capabilities expand in technologies adjacent to that, capabilities that we launch as RapDev, right, either in the store or directly, the model doesn't change, but modern ops becomes more mature, more useful in different areas. To get started with modern service ops, really the only thing you need as an organization is the will to do better within the operations space, where you say, I'm more dependent on different parts of the organization working well together, and how do I bridge that gap? From there, it's all what's on the platform, so what your licensing is and how far you want to go in terms of introducing either standards or flexibility in those standards depending on how you're organized. So there's not really one best way to start. If you notice that you need to bridge the gap, the technology moves faster than what you can support, or there's a gap between the different organizations and they don't communicate well, those are all good reasons to look at modern service ops and start implementing either pieces or holistically do everything across that, but for one key application or one key component. In general, when we talk about to get started, right, you focus on what is either the innovation that we're going through as an organization and how do we support that then across the organization, or it's where do we see the most pain related to our primary business. So how are we actually helping our organization be more successful? So those are the areas that you focus on, and then you look at all the different subcomponents that come into play for modern service ops. So what comes into play for modern service ops are areas, obviously within the DevOps space, application deployment, application control, into generally AIOps, so the ability to identify things that are happening in your environment, observability data, metrics, like those kinds of things where you identify anomalies or things you want to act upon. And then the third piece, the larger piece, is how do you do the operational support? How do I properly get the right data and the right teams involved? What are my options for resolution? Do I want to go into automated resolutions? Do I need to involve other teams to get work to solve for these things? And then like our subcomponents around ChatOps, right? How do I facilitate that working together more efficiently, reducing things like MTTR, getting better results around error budget or use of error budgets, those kinds of components. The pain that customers experience that initially makes them like look at modern service ops as a solution sit in the same vein as when we talk about the pieces that come into play with modern service ops. Lack of communication between teams, lack of insight, right? Those requirements on the security, on the app dev, they all have different needs in terms of what they need to achieve, right? The DevOps organization wants to get code out to production as fast as possible. Security wants to reduce, obviously, the attack surface that an organization has. Those two are at odds with each other. Then we have operations that wants to create a most stable production environment, which again is at odds at velocity and getting code out. So the issues within an organization are those teams are not working together. But when you present how modern service ops works and you automate the pieces, right, either through AI capabilities or through platform capabilities, and you automate the pieces that aren't contributing to that, now those teams can focus on the communication or naturally work together because we don't force them to share the same platform, that they can do the things they need to do in the areas that they're familiar with, and then ServiceNow and then engineering we add to that brings it all together, so it becomes more naturally fluid, if you will. There's multiple dimensions to maturity for a modern ops scenario. The model that we typically promote has to do with building the right components in the right order to a minimum level before you continue in the next piece. So you can do a lot of things more or less in parallel, but there is a model of what good looks like and what you do. Like a good CMDB, it's not required for good event management. There's other options on the platform, but it helps you with tying it to operations, tying it to security, tying it to visibility or cost management, right? So there's other reasons to have that. So a good CMDB, CSDM-compliant service modeling. So there's pieces that sit at the bottom of this that should be in place. Tagging strategy, consistent service definition, like using our CSDM as code as a solution. So you have that as a base, and then you can develop the automations, you can develop the end-to-end insights, you can do things like ChatOps. So even though you could do those pieces individually, if you do them in the right order, or at least make sure they all exist to a certain maturity as you go into these features, you get more value out of them.